Okay, so the next laboratory activity we have here your introduction to your hemocytometry. So hemocytometry is just a numerical evaluation that would allow to perform here the cell counting. So we are needing here, number one, kailangan natin ng counting chamber. So you could have here your Neubauer counting chamber. Another one, you are needing diluting fluid to dilute your blood. And you'll be needing also here your WBC and our RBC pipette. So we'll be concentrating here our discussion or our laboratory activity only first with your RBC count. Okay, so the counting chamber, the Neubauer counting chamber would have here dalawang ruled area. Okay, one ruled area. Okay, so ganito. Ganito makikita natin sa ruled area. And then another one here sa kabila. So there are two ruled area. In each of the ruled area, okay, meron ganitong mga squares. Okay, the depth here of your Neubauer counting chamber is 0.1 millimeter. And the length of one entire ruled area is 3 millimeter. And the width here also 3 millimeter. So, mean to say this is 3 millimeter. So, mean to say, one ruled area, there are 9 large squares. So, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that's 3 by 3. So, mean to say that one is 9 large squares. In each of the large square is 1 millimeter. So, 1 millimeter ito, 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter. That gives you 3 millimeters na okay, na width. Ang length natin, tama ba? Okay, ang length natin, so that's your 3 millimeters. Another, your width here is also 3 millimeters. So each of your 1 square, each of your 9 squares, that would have your 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter. Okay, so again, our one ruled area, there are 9 squares. And we have here 4 corner squares. Okay, that's where you try to perform here your WBC count. So each of your large corner squares, ito yung mga corner, is divided here into 16 smaller squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 by 4, 14. Ay, 16 smaller squares. The central square, on the other hand, where we try to count your RBC, is divided here into 25 smaller squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 by 5, that gives you here 25 na smaller squares. In each of the smaller squares, so parang ganito din siya, 16 din. It's further divided here into 16 na smaller squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 by 4, the 16. So usually when we are doing here your RBC count, we are counting here the 4 corner square. Okay, sa central square, dito tayo magka-count ng RBC natin. So, 4 corner squares ng central square plus ang pinaka-central. So, each of that contains here 16 na smaller squares. In each of this one, na hindi ko nilagyan ng guhit, also, ganito din ang itsura niya. They are also divided here into 16 na smaller squares, parang ganito. Okay, now we go to the measurement of each of your squares. Okay, so we have here your square. We have the length, we have here the width, the area. Area here is obtained as the length multiplied by your width. Your depth here, constant naman siya, 0.1 millimeter. And we have also here the volume. Volume is being obtained here as your, okay, the area multiplied here by the depth here. So, okay, that's your cubic millimeter ang ating unit for that. So, first one, we have large corner square. Your large corner square pertains. So, ito yung large corner squares natin. Isang buong ganyan. Okay, so, for that one, we have here your length. Okay, so ang length niya ulit, this is 1 millimeter. Ang width niya is also 1 millimeter. Okay, so 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter. Okay, ang area niya, so 1 times 1, that's 1 millimeter squared. Ang depth natin here is 0.1 millimeter. So, para ma-obtain ang volume, so multiply mo 1 millimeter squared, multiply by 0.1 millimeter, that gives you 0.1 cubic millimeter. Okay, the next one, we have your central medium square. So, we're talking about isang ganyan. isang ganito. So this is your central na square. Okay, so isang ganyan daw. Anong measurement natin? Okay, for the width here, so remember, ilan ito ulit? This is 1 millimeter. Okay, and since 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you divide it by 5. 1 millimeter, divide mo sa 5. Okay, that's give you 0.2 millimeter. Okay, so ito, isang ganyan. So, ang meaning to say, ang ating length, so from this area, papunta dito, that's 0.2 millimeter. Paano ulit ng 0.2? Because mula dito, papunta dito is 1 millimeter. And however you divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's 1 over 5, that gives you your 0.2 millimeter. Ang width natin, ganun pa din. So since it's also 1 millimeter, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 5, isang ganyan. Also 0.2 millimeter. Okay, so ang area natin, that's your 0.04 millimeter squared. Ang depth natin ulit is 0.1 millimeter. Para ma-obtain ng volume, so that's your 0.04 millimeter squared multiplied by 0.1 millimeter, that gives you 0.04, okay, 0.004 millimeter, cubic millimeter. Now we have here your central tiny square. So ang tinatawag, ang tinutukoy dito na central tiny square, isang ganyan, isang, okay, one of your 16 squares. So remember here na, paano makakuha ang diameter nito? Isang ganyan. So ulit, this is 1 millimeter. Okay, so there's, each of this one contains here 16, diba? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Since we have 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each of this one contains here 4. So that's 20. 4 by, multiply by 20. 4 multiplied by 5 because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each of that one contain here 4 na squares. So let's give you 20, di ba? So there are 20 na mga ganito. Hanggang doon. That's 1 over 20. Okay, that's your 0.05 millimeter. The same through with the width here is also 0.05 millimeter. Okay, then ang ating area, 0.05 times 0.05. So dalawang 0.0025 millimeters squared. Ang depth na is 0.1 millimeter. Ang ating volume, multiply mo ito over this one, that's give you 0.0025 cubic millimeter. Okay, that's why it's very important that you need to know here about a measurement nito. Okay, in order for you, and you know here, ilang square dapat. That in order for you then to compute for that. Okay, then we have also here another thing that we are needing here for the RBC count with our manual method with the use of your hemocytometer. We have here the pipettes. So we have here the pipette with your RBC pipette and your WBC pipette. So for the RBC pipette, we have here the significant markings. So we have the 0.5, may mark dito na 0.5, 1, and we have your 101. Pag WBC pipette, ang makikita lang natin ay 0.51 saka 11. Okay, then meron tayong bead dito. Okay, pag RBC ito, RBC pipette is red ang kanyang bead. Pag WBC, that one is white ang kanyang bead. Okay, another one, what we are needing here would be your diluting fluid. So, the diluting fluid here, ideally for the RBC count is isotonic solution. For the WBC should be hypotonic solution that would allow the RBC to swell and rupture para maiwan na lang ay ating WBC. Another one, characteristics of your diluting fluid should be able to preserve your cell and high specific gravity, and is also cheap here and easy to prepare. Okay, we have here the procedure for your RBC count. First, you'll be needing here your diluting your blood. Okay, so basically, kailangan natin ng the collected blood, it should be well mixed. Okay, so lalagay ka dito ng tubing. So dapat dito may tubing. Your rubber tubing. Okay, so ito magkocontrol. So you try to press this one. Okay, and then lagay mo ditong blood. Try to press this one and then release. Ang blood natin, ma-aspirate hanggang dito sa 0.5. Okay, slightly above that one. And then try to wipe off since may blood dito kasi nilagay mo dun sa Eta mo, may blood dito. You try to wipe off excess blood here because again, this is not part of the 0.5 na volume. Pag na-remove mo na, ilo-lower mo ito, i-dispense hanggang sa dito na ang ating, sa 0.5 mark ang ating blood. Then after that one, okay, ilalagay na natin. After you have already may blood na dito, kailangan natin ng diluting fluid. Okay, so lagay mo dito ang diluting fluid. You can use NSS because NSS is isotonic solution. So lagay mo dito diluting fluid natin with your tube. So okay, try to lower here the tip of your pipette. Make sure that one is completely dispensed or submerged in your diluting fluid to prevent here the bubble formation. So, ilublob mo siya doon, then try to, so dapat may plunger ka din dito, ihilain mo to until your diluting fluid here pupunta sa 101 mark natin. So, pag dito na siya sa 101 mark, tatanggalin mo na ang ating tubing, okay, and then try to mix your blood. The proper mixing the blood, you can use here your pipette shaker. Ilagay mo sa pipette shaker, siya lang mag-mix ng blood natin. So basically, your blood here were able to be mixed with your diluting fluid kasi may bead ang ating RBC pipette. Pero pag manual na method, so ganito siya. Pag itong pipette natin, hawakan mo lang ganito, then pag ganon. Parang ganon. Okay, so hawakan mo itong both ends para hindi siya matapon. And then ganito. With your one hand, ikanon mo siya. Hindi pwedeng ganon-ganon ha. Dapat ganon. That would allow here, okay, pressure, tension here para mag-mix ang ating blood. Okay, so allow that one, mga 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, and then until well mixed na siya. Okay, then after you have already mixed your blood, you're going to fill here your diluted blood in your pipette with our counting chamber. So basically, itong counting chamber natin, glass ito. So lalagyan mo dito ng cover slip. So ang gagawin natin ay, before you try to charge your new Bauer counting chamber, you need to dispense first here few drops of the blood, mga 2 to 3 drops. Okay, bakit natin i-dispense? Like for example here, after mixing, okay, so i-dispense natin. So, ganun mo. Okay, para na lumabas dito. Okay, you allow that one to dispense here few drops of the blood kasi ang mga dito na part, baka diluting fluid lang dito. Diba kanina nag-aspirate ka ng diluting fluid? So, baka dito na part ay diluting fluid, walang blood. So, para bumaba ito ang ating na mix na blood, papunta dito, so magdi-dispense ka ng few drops of the blood. Pwede mo siya i-dispense sa cotton or even in your tissue paper. After you have dispenses already, so ita-charge mo na siya. Okay, kung ito ang cover slip natin, ita-touch mo lang ang tip nito. So, ganun mo dito sa end para makontrol mo, para maglabas siya ng diluted na blood. So, ita-touch mo dito slowly. Okay, then try to release that one. Try to release this one para ma-release ang ating diluted blood until you're able to cover here the entire na. Okay, so pag ganito lang siya na part, so dito tayo, ganyan. So make sure na dito lang pupunta ang ating diluted na blood. So ito siya. Dalawang side kasi ito. Dito ka, make sure na hindi siya lumagpas dito kasi kanal na ito. So mean to say, hindi dapat siya nag-overflow. Pag dito naman sa kabila, so dito ka naman mag-charge. And make sure enough lang siya to cover this one entire area mo na ruled area where you try to count your cells. Okay, then we have here the counting of your RBC. So, after you have charged your new Bauer counting chamber, set it aside, do not disturb for approximately 3 minutes. That would allow here the cells to settle para hindi sila papunta kung sa mga squares. Like for example, kung ito ng cells natin nakasettle dito, kailangan mo siya i-settle here para mag-stay lang sila dito sa particular area na square. Hindi sila palipat-lipat. Kasi pag palipat-lipat sila, magiging erroneous ang counting natin. Like you count this area, lumipat dito, i-count mo ulit. Hindi pwedeng ganon. That's why, after charging your new power counting chamber, let it settle first. That's all here for 3 minutes before you try to examine that one under the microscope. Okay, then after that one, lalagay mo na sa microscope, you start with a scanner para malocate mo ang mga lines. Okay, then after that one, you try to shift your objectives, okay, until na you try to focus that one in the HPO. We try to read or to count here our RBC count in the HPO. Okay, and try to focus here on the central square. Diba kanina, 4 corner, 9 squares natin. Okay, may 4, ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. Sa gitna tayo. Okay, then sa gitna, kung for example, ito na ang gitna natin, so ito lang, 5 squares ang i-count natin. Okay, then we have here how we're going to count the cells here. So observe for the boundary. Okay, so ang limit natin kung paano natin i-count. So pag may double lines, the outer line, the second line will be your boundary. Like for example, this one. Okay, di ba ito talagang pinaka-squares natin, pero dito sa edge, may double line. Pag may double line, ika-second na outer line, kung dito ang cells mo, nag-fall dito sa line na to, counted pa din siya dito. Pag triple line naman, pag triple line, okay, pag triple line, so ganun siya. Still, the central pa din na square, the central na line pa din ang boundary natin. Pag dito siya na-fall, so i-count mo dito. Pero pag dito na sa third line, outer line, hindi mo na siya i-count. Okay, that become your boundary. Okay, another one, you count the cells here touching the upper line and the left line. So, pag sinabing upper line, so itong upper line natin, ito yung left na line. Paano tayo magka-count? So, una muna, dito ka magka-count. So, depende pala sa'yo kung gusto mo. Basta you try to count here the 5. Okay, so dito ka muna. So, like for example here. One direction lang dapat tayo nag-count. So, pwedeng pa ganyan. Dito ka mag-umpisa sa square na to, papunta dito, pababa ka, then ganyan. Ganyan, 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 and ganyan. Okay, so basically lahat ito ay ka-count natin. And each of that one, lalagyan mo siya ng bilang or count natin. So, paano ang, like for example here, dito ka mag-start. So, for example, may cell tayo, may RBC tayo dito na ganyan. Okay, so ang i-count lang natin na cells dito ay yung mga bilog na mga RBC natin. Yung may mga nucleus, okay, those are your WBC, do not count that one. So, yung mga bilog lang na wala siyang laman sa loob, that your RBC. So, again, you start here. So, for example, ano ang ulit boundary natin? Left line, since dito siya, sa upper line, okay, so dito mo siya i-count. So, for example, this line, square is, ang bilang natin ay 2. Nakita mo dito may hindi na siya part dito. Okay, so dito mo na siya i-count. This one, 1, 2, 2 pa din dito sa next. Okay, dito naman, hindi mo na bibilangin ito kasi ulit ang boundary natin? Ito lang, saka ito lang dapat. Dito na square, so ito ang ating boundary, saka itong boundary. So, meaning to say, ito ay hindi na part dito. So, this is 1. Ito naman, since dito siya, so ito ay dito sa kanya, so 1 pa din siya. So, pababa ka na, dito. Okay, ulit ang ating boundary ay ito, saka ito. So, bilang mo ito, saka ito, that's 2. Okay, dito ulit, ito ang ating boundary, saka ito. So, since meron ka dito, saka dito, that's 2. 1. Okay, dito. So, meron tayong dito sa, okay, this will give you, counted pa rin siya dito. That's still 2. Mean to say, kakount mo to lahat, isa-isa. Okay? So, lipat ka dito in all, until all the 5 na squares, you have already counted. Okay, then we have here the computation for the RBC count. So, number 1, we have here the total RBC counted. So, kanina, di ba? Ay, wala na pala. I-count mo lahat, total mo lahat dito na count mo dito, na count mo, na count, total mo lahat. To become your total RBC counted. Multiply by your area correction factor. Our area correction factor here is 25 over 5. Bakit 25 over 5? Kasi 25 ang squares ng ating central na square. So, kaso nga lang 5. Out of 25, 5 lang ang kinount natin. Parang 5. Isa dito, gitna, saka doon. That's 5. Then we have your dilution factor. 100 here is the volume of your bulb ng ating RBC pipette. 0.5 is the volume of your blood. Okay, then that gives you 200. And your depth correction factor here is 10. That's automatic. It's 5 times 200 times 10. That's 10,000. Or simply multiply by 10,000. Total number of the cells counted multiplied by 10,000. That give you here a million per cubic millimeter. Or 5.0 times 10 to the 6. Example, we have here, for example, kung ito ang count natin, 5 million. So, the 5 million, lahat. I mean, try to report that one as million talaga. Okay, 7, okay, na decimal places. Million, that's cubic millimeter. But if you try to shortcut, 5.0 times 10 to the 6 per UL, pareho lang din naman ito. Or 5.0 times 10 to the 12 per liter. Okay, that's how you're going to report your result. Okay, so thank you.